Hi guys, welcome to Pixel Affair. It's Kobe here. So in today's video, we are going to see how we will do this. So this is basically Nike logo, morphing from it, the logo form to a Nike shoe, right? And you are going to see how we will do this using the new Cinema 4D particle system. And this is relatively easy to do. So I have a different variation of the same technique. So this is it. If I start, you can see it's the same Nike logo, and it's this time moving from left to right, and it's forming the shoe, right? It's quite simple. All right, you can see it starts from here and it moves and it then forms the logo. I have the same variation of this particular one with a little bit of camera movement and to make it like give it a little bit of interesting look. So you can see it get very closer to the particles, and you can see some sort of spheres, small spheres, that's basically forming the Nike shoe. And this was actually rendered using Arnold, right? So yeah, and we are going to see how we will do this, and it's relatively easy to you should be able to do this if you have a basic understanding of the Cinema 4D new particle system, and it's quite easy and nice and fun to do. So let's get into Cinema 4D and see how we will do this. I think this will be a necessary caveat. So in the initial renders I showed, I have about 1 million particles in there. And this being a tutorial, I think it will be difficult for me to simulate hundreds of thousands of particles or 1 million particles and be able to also record and have a proper feedback with my machine. So what I'll do is that all the techniques, everything will show exactly how the processes were done, just that it will be fewer particles so that my machine can run smoothly and for me to be able to record the tutorial. But after that, I'll also break down the scenes of the um, initial renders, so nothing to worry about. So I have a new scene open here, and you can see I already have my Nike logo and also my Nike shoe in here, right? And then I also have a different, let me actually set it to a standard interface. So you can see, let's first of all, I don't like the work plane here, so I come to filters now and check the work plane. And I'm using Cinema 4D 2024.4, which is the new version that has the particle system in it. So let's quickly start creating our particles and stuff like that. But because anytime I want to create something, I have to come up here to the simulation tab and click and all of that. I don't. So I've already created my own particles like interface, which has all the particles and the things that I'll basically need when I'm working with particles. And to do that, it's quite simple. So it's as simple as, let's say, come into us like simulation tab here, and let's click on, make sure if you select like say the emitter, you can see these dots. Click on it to make sure it tears it apart. Click on it to undock it. Do the same thing for all of the ones that you need. So, and now we want to create a palette here. So I'll right click on here and I'll say customize palette, and I'll first of all probably drag in this one somewhere here, right? And you can see now it's drag all the condition the modifiers in here, right? So now let's go ahead and add other emitters, but from here going you have to do it individually. So I'll drag the basic emitter on top, the mesh emitter, the reproduce, and the spline also. And I can see everything is like sort of combined. So to separate it, you come in here, you can see you have group separator, just click and drag it and put it in here to create a separation, and do the same thing for the rest. So you can go ahead and add the particle group and the multi group, and now you have those ones, and you can now also add group separator too. So that's basically the process till you have everything that you want on here. And after that, when you are done, you can simply come to Windows, customize, and you can save as startup layout, like, or save layout as whatever, however you name it. So I name mine particles, and you can see I have it. So now I have everything in here. So everything that's I'll be like I have here is basically in here, just that I don't go up like back and forth like that. So yeah, to avoid to not confusing you, right? So now that I have every object in here, and you can see I have my particles interface, let's go ahead and create our emitter. Because we want to generate particles on the surface of our Nike logo, I'll use mesh emitter, right? So I'll drag it down here, including the particle group. Now, anytime you create an emitter, it comes with its particle group, and that's important, very important in this scenario. As we go on, you understand. So I'll select my mesh emitter and come to the attribute. You can see in the emission tab, if we should hit play, we are generating, actually I forgot. So in the emission tab, we need to tell it which geometry we want to generate the particles from. So let me drag in the logo and drop it in here. And now if I should hit play, you can see particles are coming from the surface of our Nike logo, and a certain surface. You can generate from point or also even the volume of our object. So I don't want the particles to be generating all the time, like over time. I just want one shot of particle, like just let's say 1,000 particles, and it comes 1,000. That's it. No over time generating. For this one, it will be generating 100 particles every 30 frames or every second. So I'll set it to short, and I'll set it to like the count to 10,000. And if I should hit play and see generate 10,000 particles, and it's all moving, I don't want the speed. So I'll select the properties and I'll come to the velocity, and you can see the speed is set to 100. I'll set it to 0. And now if you should hit play, generate 10,000 particles, and it stays there. That's all I want. So I'll go ahead and hide this null for now. And then like everything is fine. So what we want to do is that we want to give it our own velocity. So I'll use the turbulence to affect it. So I'll select my, in fact, come in here, and you can see I have my forces down here. So I'll choose turbulence, and to make the turbulence affect the particles, if we leave it just in the scene like that, it will affect every particle in the scene. So if I should hit play, you can see the turbulence is affecting. Let me actually create, move it somewhere, increase the strength a bit, probably something like that, and also the scale. Right, if I hit play, you can see it affects everything. In fact, I'll go ahead and create a quick basic emitter, which is key, and hit play. You can see that basic emitter also came with its particle group, which is important. Now if I should hit play, you can see the turbulence affect that one as well. But if I should put the turbulence under just the particle group for the mesh emitter, the one we created, see what happens. You can see affect it, and this one, the turbulence doesn't affect it. So the particle group is really important. Anytime you want something to affect a specific kind of particles, you make sure everything falls within the particle group. So I'll go ahead and delete the basic emitter in the particle group as well, and I'll leave the turbulence out of the particle group. So you can see that it's giving us this turbulence, which I think is cool for now, but it's too much. So I'll add friction. So I'll come into my forces in here, now add friction, and drag it down here, and that should help a bit. Maybe I'll increase it to something 15, and if I should hit play, you can see, yeah, it's fast, but no. But remember, like, I don't want it to affect the whole particle at the whole, like, just right from the start. I want it to start from the back here and then gradually move to the front. So use field. So I select the turbulence, come to fields tab, and I'll add a linear field. Right at frame 0, we set a keyframe. In fact, yeah, set a keyframe on the x coordinates, and now let's maybe assume frame 360. Let's drag it somewhere here. Let's make sure it's past it. Yeah, I think it's past it. So yeah, in fact, if we hit play, you can see it gradually affects it, and that's what we want. Right now, how do we make it move towards our shoe? It's quite simple. So we will do something. We will tell this particle or this particle group, or basically these particles, that whenever their speed passes a certain limit, it should switch from this particle group to another particle group. And how do we do that? We use something called condition. So I'll come into my down here into the particle stuff, and I'll choose condition. I'll click on it, and I'll make it a child of the particle group as well. In fact, let's drag it down. So what we will do is that we'll tell it that whenever the speed of our particle passes a certain limit, it should move from this particular group into another particular group. So I'll select it, come to the condition tab here, and I'll change it. We want speed, right? So I'll click on this, the H, and you can see we have velocity speed. So let's choose velocity speed, and now come down here to comparison. Change it from equals to greater than or equals. So what you're saying is that whenever the velocity passes a certain is greater than or equal to a certain value, which what is the value? So let's set it to like say let's actually make it 70 centimeters. Whenever the velocity speed is greater than or equal to 70 centimeters, something should what should happen is to switch group. So let's create a switch group modifier, which we have. It's also new. So let's create a switch group and make it a child of the condition. So I'll drag it and make it a child of the condition. So whenever the velocity is past 7 greater than or equals to 70, switch group. Now the group is which group do we switch to? So let's create a new group. So I'll create a new group, particle group. I'll call this particle group shoe, and then select the switch group, drag this particle group into it. Now select this part for us to see if it has really switched. Let's select this particular group and come to the draw tab, like down here that draw. Let's change this one from none to constant. This is just for the viewport. It doesn't affect the color of our particle. The color of our particles, it's what it generates basically from the properties. You can see the color is green. So if we are to render it like this is the particle the color we will get. So now, because we've added the switch group, and whenever a switch group, it will turn to red. So now if you hit play, you can see goes, let me click away. You can see whenever it passes that velocity, the color turns red, and it means it's working. Now it turns red, and that's basically it. But we want it to, whenever a switch group, it should be attracted towards our shoe, right? And to do that, we will use the field force. So I'll come into my forces and I'll create a field force and make it a child of the particle group shoe, right? Now, like let's define the object we want to attract. So let's, in the field force, let's drag in the shoe in here, right? And also let's increase the strength to like say 150, right? And also come down here to the layer tab here. Let's set it to surface, and the direction, let's change it from use value to normalize. You can also use remap. I think it also works. And one thing I'll do with the fill force is that I'll move it to the center of our shoe, something like that. And now if I should hit play, you can see now the particles are being attracted to our shoe, and that's exactly something we want. But the energy, like I said, is too strong, so I'll go ahead and hide the field force and add a bit friction. Friction always sort of takes away the energy of your particles. So I'll come in here and I'll create a friction, make it a child of the field force. And now if you hit play, you can see now the energy is not as much. Let's hide the shoes once again. You can see it's not as much, but I get close to the shoe and something is happening, but it's not really forming. We will get there. So but like I want before it gets closer to the shoe, I want it to have that energy. It shouldn't be slowed by this friction. So I'll select the friction and add like a field to it. I'll select the friction, come to the field tab, and I'll add the linear field. And I'll say, so before it gets somewhere here, it should be very energetic till it passes this side and starts, the friction starts affecting it. So let's hide it. So now if we should hit play, in fact, I'll hide the linear field as well. So now if you should hit play, you can see, and let's hide our object. It's energetic, but immediately gets here, it sort of slows down like that. Yeah, I kind of like it. right? And also, if we want our particles to sort of delay, don't want it to move directly like that, we can select the condition and increase, let's say, the value to maybe 90, and let's see what happens. You can see it will take a bit of time before it starts moving. You can see it takes a bit of time before it starts moving. And what you can do is you can actually even keyframe it over time. So it can actually be very big, and over time you reduce it so that whatever you want to do. But I'll set it to maybe 75. But let's actually do 80. Right, I think 80 should be fine now. So it's being attracted. Perfect. So it's getting to the shoe, but not really moving on the surface of the shoe. And how do we do that? To do that, there's another modifier which actually it's called surface attract. So I'll click on surface attract, make the child of the particle group shoe, and then with the surface attract, it tells it to follow a surface, but what surface do we tell it to follow? We need to, it's the shoe, right? So we right click on the shoe, come to simulation, and add a collider tag. So with this surface attract, you need the collider tag to make it work. So with that, I now select the surface attract, come to the surface attract tab here. You can see the mode is set to follow. We can make it attract or make it land, but it's set to follow, and that's fine. So let's reduce the radius to something like 3 or probably 2, and let's increase the strength to like a lot to like 1000. All right, and now if we should hit play, let's see what happens. You can see now our particles being attracted to the shoe, and when it gets closer, you can see now it's moving on the surface of our shoe, and it's sort of growing. And that's basically literally how I did this. And you can see with the original one, I have a lot of particles, but with this, like, it's just 10,000 particles, so it doesn't show as well. So now that we've made it move to the surface of the particle, let me see if I can probably add a little bit more particles to it. Let me make it like, say, 15,000. Go back to the emission. Because I'm recording and I don't want to make it slow, so I don't try and bump the particles that much. And also, another thing is that the Cinema 4D particle system is quite fast, but when you start adding all these forces and stuff to it, which is like an old system kind of thing, it sort of slows it down a bit, but it's still cool. So yeah, like we have it now, it's switching from green. Let's actually set the initial emitter color from green. So I'll come to properties, color, let's set it from green to white, right? And also I don't want it to switch to the red color, so I'll select the particle group shoe. In fact, this red color is just for the viewport. If we render, like I said, it wouldn't show in the render, so I'll actually set it to none. And we want it to switch from white to the color of the shoe, which is this blue and white and black kind of thing. And to get the color of the shoe, we will need the vertex color. So I'll right click on the shoe, come to other tags, and I'll add a vertex, not vertex map, but vertex color rather. So I'll right click on the shoe once again, other tags, and I'll add a vertex color. You can see now every vertex or every vertex on the shoe has a color, and it's black for now. So you can come into the vertex color, use a shader field, and the shader field, you can come into the shader field down here, the channel, let's set it to color, and the color we want to use is the material, the color of this material tag. This is the basic Cinema 4D material, and you can see in the color tag there's this texture that we have. Yeah, so that's what we are going to use. So we've applied it to the shoe, which this one, all right? So let's go to the vertex color, and in the shader field, the channel, we set it to color, and which material tag that we want to use its color. You just can simply click and drag it in here, or you can use this one to click on this. When you click on it, it highlights. You can use it to choose the object you want. So you can see now the vertex color, which was black, now has turned into the color of the shoe. So this is the vertex color, not actually the shoe color. So this is the shoe color, and this is the vertex color that we are seeing. So with this vertex color, we can now transfer it into to our particles, right? And how do we do that? It's as simple as coming into our particles particle group. We have another modifier called color mapper. So let's click on the color mapper, make it a child of our particle group shoe as well, and it can use it to affect it over time, like its age and all of velocity, speed, and everything. But in this case, we want to use it to affect the we want to use not the property but fields. So let's choose fields, and now in the fields, let's drag in the vertex color, right? So let's go ahead and hide our shoe again and our object again. If we should hit play, immediately it switch from the white or from the particle group 1 to the particle group shoe. You will see it will change its color to the shoe. You can see if I get close, you can see now some of the white are turning blue, right? So you can see it's turning blue, and now it's switching. So everything that anytime you switch it picks the color of our shoe, and we'll get more. That's basically it. So let's let it play a bit. Now you can see it basically covers the surface of our shoe. I mean, like I said, the particles are not enough, so it's not covering everything, but you get the idea, right? So now that we have everything, like how do we render it? Literally, that's basically all I actually did in my case. The one I showed, actually, I'll show that one, go to the project itself later. But how do we render this? It's as simple. Like I actually used Arnold to render this particular scene, and it's all I did was in Arnold. It's really well integrated with this particular system. If I come into my Arnold IPR, let me actually drag it on the side here, right, and add some light in the scene. So I come into my Arnold and our Arnold sky. You can actually hide our object as well, and select the Arnold sky. Come down to the camera. Let's set the camera to 0 so that we don't see the white background. You can see just adding light in the scene, we can actually see our particles just like that. If you even get closer, you can see some sort of spheres, right? And to right click on the object, let's actually select the particle group, right click on the particle group, come to extension and add Arnold parameters, C40 to A tags, add Arnold parameters to it. And now in here, you can actually change the object. So now it's set to sphere. I can set it to quartz, and you can see we have some cubes. You can set it to other custom shapes or points, right? But let's set it back to spheres, and that's basically it. So now to get it to render, we have to create a new material for it. So come into our create Arnold standard surface here, and I'll apply it to both of the group. Now we can actually create one multi-group and put these two in it so that you can actually be doing this just one time. But I mean, in this case, it's fine. So you can see immediately I applied the standard material to it. It's 10 white because it's white, and now we've lost our particle color, right? We don't see it. So you need to go in to our nodes node editor. So I'll double click on it, come to the node editor, and now in here I'll press C, look for user data RGB, right? Let's drag user data RGB. Excuse me. Select the user data RGB, come to the attributes, click on here, and you can see we have particles, and can choose color. Now connect the color, this one, to the object color, and now it's now seeing our particles color back again. So from here you can go ahead and add your reflections and stuffs and all of that things that you want to add to it, right? And yeah, with the Arnold standard Arnold perimeter tab, like you can actually also increase the radius of your object. Now, this is just a multiplier. So the actual radius of your um, particles is defined here. If I select our mesh emitter and come to the properties, this is actually the radius that's actually being generated. But this is just a multiplier at the render time. So if you want it a bit bigger, you can actually use this to get it, a bit bigger. So now that's basically how I actually created everything. So I'll quickly jump into the original video, the one I used to, I rendered to show the video. So this one of it. So I'll actually probably let me make this one smaller. So this is basically it. You can see, and I've actually, one thing that's really important is that after everything is done and you are set and done, one thing is very key is you need to make sure you bake your particles, like cache it. And caching it is quite simple. If I come in here, back to our old scene. So this is the one that we're working on. Like, where is it? Yeah. So if I hit play, in fact, it's not even like I'm just showing the cache. So all you have to do is select your particle group, the ones that you have to cache. Come to the part, select the particle. You can see we have cache just in there, right? And you can just cache. If it's just one particle that you want to cache, you can just cache. If all of them, you can select them, all of them, and cache it. Or you can cache basically the whole scene, and that will include other dynamics and all of that, everything that's within the scene. So now let me go back to the initial one. So this is it. Like this one, I have I've forgotten, but a lot of particles, hundreds of thousands, probably up to over almost a million. No, I'm not sure it's up to a million, but a lot of particles. So this is it, and you can see everything. So like I did particle group one, which is this one, has turbulence and just friction. I deactivated the wind because it wasn't even needed. So just like I showed in the earlier video, just a turbulence and friction for the particle group one. And then whenever past a certain speed, a switch group, you can see, so whenever I pass 60 centimeters greater than or equal to a switch group to particle group, which is the shoe one. And now in the particle group shoe one, we have the color mapper, which is giving it the color, the field force. If I come here, you can see shoe surface, and it's set to normalize. And right, I had a little bit of like the velocity was set to 200, and then friction, which will sort of reduce the energy a bit. And you have the linear field to actually, limit it from the when it gets closer to the shoe, and the surface attract to do its thing, right? Moving it on the surface. Now the surface attract, sometimes if it depends, if your particles are really moving a bit faster, some might try to leave or will not be able to follow the surface. So you'll try leaving the surface. So in that case, you probably have to go to control the project settings that I think you can find somewhere. Is it here? I think, yeah, I see scene settings. Yeah, I think scene settings. So you come to the project settings, which is the same as the scene settings, and in the simulation, go to particles, and you actually increase the sub steps a bit. Sometimes it fixes that issue. So now, after that, that's basically all I did, and I added my lights and cameras and all of that, and this is the camera to it. So you can see it's just one camera that I've animated. Get close and zoom in. So eventually everything's set. So now I did a little trick. Actually, let me bring my picture viewer with the shoe. I don't think it actually in this case it probably wouldn't see it. It's not really obvious. But you can see when the whole part, everything, the particle get close and it covers the whole shoe. Also brings in the shoe back, like the shoe itself fades in. Actually, I think this particular scene will show it better. I think this one will do. So you can see in here, if I get closer, you can see the shoe itself, the shoe material. I set the transparency to 0, and when the particles go closer and everything moving on the surface, I animated it in from black to white to reveal the shoe itself, right? So you wouldn't probably notice it that quick, but yeah, I think it helped in this case. So that's basically all I did in this video. So this is the other scene, and you can see the other scene. This is the emission emitter, and it have like 1 million particles, right? And I've actually catched it, so you can scrub through, and you can see it's quite fast. So 1 million particles, and the forces I used in this case is like instead of the initial one, I use just turbulence and the friction. You can see this one. I also have rotation, so this one is rotating the particles, right? Making them rotate whilst it has turbulence in it, and when they pass the threshold, like the velocity speed, right, it sort of switch group. But one thing I did with the velocity speed, you can see I animated it. If you check, you can see it was a bit high. It was 80, and over time I kept reducing it so it got to like I think 40 or 50 something. Yeah, 50, right? Basically. So by then it switch group and it goes to the particle group, which is this one. And we have the field force, the same exact stuff to attract it to the shoe, the friction to sort of control it a bit. And in this case, I didn't have even any fields with the friction, and then surface attract and our color mapper. That's basically it. It all has the same technique, just that how you want it to move and all of that is what differs. But basically, it's all the same thing. So I hope this one too was useful, or this one has helped. We can actually also do a lot of interesting things. I'm actually thinking of doing a second video where probably use it with the volume measure to see what interesting stuff we can create it. I think if you like this video, let me know. If you have any question, you can hit me on Instagram and ask me there. I hope this video was useful and you've learned maybe one or two tricks. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.